Welcome back to the deep dive. We're doing something a little distinct today.
A little different.
Usually we take a specific topic like a historical event or a new piece of technology or a breakthrough in supply chain management, and we really drill down.
Into the mechanics of it, the external world.
Exactly how it works. But today, we are turning the drill bit around. We are pointing it inward. We are tackling a question that is, I think, simultaneously the most cliched thing you could possibly ask, and if you're actually being honest with yourself, maybe the most terrifying.
It's a big one.
It's the question that stares back at you from the bathroom mirror at 3 a.m. when you can't sleep. It is simply, who am I?
The universal question. The one that's been haunting us since we, climbed down from the trees.
Haunting is the right word. And I want to pause here at the start because I can feel the immediate reaction from you listening. I can almost hear the eyes rolling from here.
Oh, for sure.
It sounds like, late night dorm room philosophy, right? It
Yeah.
sounds like something you talk about when you're 19, wearing a black turtleneck, maybe a beret.
Sitting in a smoky cafe,
Yeah.
pretending to read Camus. It feels indulgent.
Indulgent, that's the word. It feels like navel gazing.
That's the common critique, isn't it?
Hmm.
That it's a luxury problem.
Hmm.
In a world where there are very real, very tangible problems to solve. Climate change, economic instability, just getting kids to school on time.
Mm-hmm.
Who has the time to sit around wondering about the metaphysical nature of the self?
It feels like a distraction.
Like fluff.
Right. It absolutely feels like fluff. But here's the thing, and this is why I was so excited to go through this massive stack of notes and research with you today. The source material we're working with suggests that this reaction, this urge to dismiss the question as fluff, is actually a defense mechanism. We treat who am I like it's a riddle, like a math problem we're supposed to solve once. You go to college, you find yourself, or maybe you have a breakdown in your 30s and you figure it out then, and then you put the answer in your pocket, you check the box, and you get back to being a productive member of society.
That's the industrial approach to identity, isn't it? Solve the problem, become a stable unit of production, move on.
Mm.
But the source material, which, it pulls from psychology, evolutionary biology, even some pretty heavy philosophy.
Yeah.
It suggests this isn't a problem to be solved at all. It's what the researchers call a living question.
A living question.
Yeah.
I really, really liked that distinction in the reading. Can we unpack that a bit? Because it sounds nice, but what does it actually mean for someone listening?
It means it's something you circle back to constantly. It's not a static destination you arrive at.
Mm.
The notes use this beautiful phrase. We revisit this question at different altitudes of life.
Different altitudes. Okay.
Yeah, think about it. When you're 20, asking who am I is usually about potential. It's perspective. It's all about who could I be?
Yeah.
You're looking at this infinite menu of options and trying to choose.
Right. It's about the anxiety of choice. Which path do I take?
Exactly. But then you hit 40, maybe 45, and you revisit the question. The altitude has completely changed. Now it might be about legacy or maybe limitations. It's shifted to who have I become?
Is this it?
Is this it? That's a huge part of it. And then, fast forward to 70, and it's about integration. Who was I really? Did it all matter?
Yeah.
So if you think you solved the question at 20, you're going to be in for a world of hurt at 40 because the raw materials of your life, the very ground you're standing on, has completely changed.
That is so true. It explains that specific kind of frustration, that feeling of free fall when you thought you had it all figured out. You think, okay, I'm this job, I'm this partner, I have this hobby. And then one of those pillars gets knocked out.
Right.
You lose a job or the relationship ends or you get injured and can't run anymore. And suddenly the whole roof just collapses. You don't just feel sad, you feel erased.
Erased is the perfect word.
Yeah.
Because you confuse the scaffolding with the building. You confuse the temporary role with the permanent self. So the mission of this deep dive today, it isn't to give you some kind of fortune cookie answer.
No easy answers here.
No. We aren't looking for a single definition like you are a soul or you are your brain or you are your job title. The mission is to move the whole concept of identity from that empty, abstract, anxiety-inducing cloud to something grounded, reflective, and actually useful.
Useful is the key word here. We really want this to be a toolkit, not just a therapy session. So let's look at the overview of what we're covering because we have a lot of ground to cover. We are going to explore identity through multiple specific lenses that the research provides: biological, social, psychological, and narrative. And then we're going to get into the modern crisis of how tools like AI are messing with our sense of authorship. That's a huge one right now.
It's massive.
Yeah.
And we're going to tackle some of the big paradoxes, like the ship of Theseus. If you change over time, physically and mentally, are you still you? We'll get into that.
Yeah.
And we'll look at the shadow, the big difference between just suppressing your dark thoughts and actually integrating them.
And we're going to end with something called the improbability stack, which is just, I mean, it's mind-blowing math about why you exist at all. I honestly had to read that section of the notes 3 times just to get my head around it.
The heavy one.
It is. But let's start with section 1, deconstructing the I. The notes begin with something called the fragmentation technique.
Right, because so much of the frustration, the anxiety around this question comes from it just being too big. Who am I? It's massive. It's vague. It's like asking, what is the meaning of life?
Or what is the universe? You can't get a grip on it.
You can't chew on it. It's too big to swallow. So the source material suggests breaking the I into these specific lenses to make it manageable. If you try to answer the whole thing at once, you just freeze. But if you slice it up, you can actually start to see what's going on inside.
Okay, so let's run through these lenses, because I found this incredibly helpful, almost like a diagnostic tool. Instead of one big answer, you're checking in with like 5 different versions of yourself. The first one is biological.
This is the foundation. This is the hardware. Who are you biologically? And I don't mean your personality. I mean your actual physical machine. This is your body, your age, your physical limits, your instincts, your energy levels.
The stuff we try to ignore.
We try so hard to ignore it. We live in a culture, especially a digital one, that loves to pretend we're just floating brains or, spirits trapped in meat. We treat our bodies like taxis that carry our brains from one meeting to the next.
Meat taxis. That is a grim but very accurate image.
Isn't it? But it's how we live. The reality is, if you are exhausted or you're hungry or you're going through hormonal changes or just the process of aging, that is a massive part of who you are in that moment.
It's not the whole story, but it's a huge chapter.
It's the page the story is written on. If you haven't slept in 24 hours, you are a fundamentally different person than you are after a full night's rest. Your patience, your worldview, your optimism, so much of it is biological.
That really grounds you, though. I
Yeah.
love that because it de-escalates the panic. It means I'm not necessarily depressed or existentially broken in some abstract, permanent way. I might just be biologically depleted.
You might just be hangry.
I might just be hangry. And that's a huge distinction.
Yeah. Precisely. It removes the moral judgment from the feeling. You aren't a bad person for being irritable. You might just be a tired organism. And that allows you to address the root cause. Go get a sandwich, take a nap, rather than spiraling into this cycle of self-loathing.
Okay, so checking the hardware. That's step 1. What's the second lens?
The second is social. Who are you socially? These are your roles: partner, parent, friend, boss, employee, neighbor. It's also the web of expectations that others place on you.
This one feels like the loudest one for most people.
It's usually the loudest, yeah. It's the one that answers the phone. It's the one that writes the bio on your social media profile. It's the answer you give at a cocktail party when someone asks, so what do you do?
It's the LinkedIn profile self.
It is. And look, it's necessary. You can't function in the world without social roles. We are social primates. We need to know where we fit in the hierarchy and in the web of relationships. But the danger, as we touched on earlier, is confusing that role with your whole self.
The scaffolding versus the building.
Exactly. If you are only a doctor or only a parent, you are incredibly vulnerable. Because when the hospital fires you or the kids leave for college, who's left in the house? That silence can be, well, terrifying.
And that silence leads us to the third lens, psychological.
Who are you psychologically? This is your software, your internal programming. It's your patterns, your fears, your core motivations, your coping strategies. If you're the kind of person who uses humor to deflect intimacy, that's a piece of your psychological identity.
Or if you're a people pleaser or chronically risk averse.
Right. If you have an anxious attachment style, that's psychological. This is the stuff you usually dig into during therapy. It's your internal weather system.
And then the fourth,
Yeah.
narrative. This one feels uniquely human. I mean, animals have biology and social hierarchies, but do they have narratives?
Probably not in the complex, self-aware way we do. The narrative lens is the story you tell about yourself, the story about where you've been and where you think you're going.
So things like, I'm a survivor, or I'm a late bloomer.
I'm the black sheep of the family. I'm an unlucky person. These stories are immensely powerful because we tend to filter all our experiences to fit the story we've already written.
Oh, that's so true. If your story is, I am unlucky, You will notice every single red light you hit and completely forget every green light.
Exactly. You edit the raw footage of your life to fit the genre of the movie you think you're in. If you think you're in a tragedy, even a happy moment feels like a setup for a fall. If you think you're in a hero's journey, a setback looks like a training montage. The story dictates the meaning.
But the fifth lens, this is the one that really stopped me in my tracks when I was reading the prep material. The
Yeah.
invisible self.
Yes, this is the deepest cut. Who are you when no one is watching?
That is a chilling question in a way, because it forces you to be brutally honest.
It's the ultimate diagnostic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who are you when there is no applause, when there is no external pressure, when there is no performance? The choices you make in that empty room, that is the bedrock of your character.
So, do you return the shopping cart to the corral in the parking lot when no one is around?
That's the classic test, right? But it's also, do you doom scroll until your eyes bleed? Do you create a piece of art just for the joy of it, even if you know no one will ever see it? Do you secretly help someone without needing the credit? That lens often reveals more than the other four combined because it strips away all the social rewards. It's just you and the void.
And the takeaway from the source isn't that you need a perfect, unified thesis statement for all of these. We aren't trying to write a dissertation on ourselves.
God, no. You don't have to write a manifesto. That would be completely paralyzing.
You just need to notice which lens is loudest right now.
Exactly. It's about paying attention. Think of it like a mixing board in a recording studio. You have these 5 tracks. If you're going through a health crisis, the biological fader is pushed all the way up. It's taking up 90% of the bandwidth.
And everything else gets quieter.
Right. Or if you're going through a public shaming or maybe a big promotion at work, the social lens is just screaming at you and just naming it, oh, okay, my social self is under attack right now, but my biological self is fine and my narrative self is still intact. That helps you stop feeling like your entire existence is threatened.
It compartmentalizes the crisis. It contains the fire.
It contains the fire. That's a great way to put it. It keeps it from burning down the whole house.
That is incredibly practical. I love that. Now, connected to this is another distinction the research draws, which feels really important for our time. It's the difference between function and identity.
This is vital, especially in the West and especially in capitalist societies where we are just obsessed with productivity.
Tell me about it.
Function is what you do. It's what you produce. It's what you provide to the tribe or to the economy. Identity is how you experience being alive.
And we confuse the two all the time.
Constantly. The notes have this thought experiment that I think is so powerful. If all your roles and all your outputs were stripped away, what remains? And I think for a lot of people, especially high achievers, the honest answer is nothing. Or maybe just panic.
Yeah.
That's the trap. We equate our value with our output. I am valuable because I write code. I am valuable because I close deals. I am valuable because I raise successful children. If you are your function, then retirement is a form of death.
A layoff is a form of death.
The empty nest is a form of death because you cease to be useful and therefore you think you cease to exist.
So how do we escape that? What's the way out?
The source suggests looking for traits that survive when the roles die. This is where you look for adjectives, not nouns. Things like curious, cautious, playful, analytical, tender, restless.
Those are qualities of being, not job descriptions.
Exactly. You can be an analytical accountant, but if you lose that job, you are still an analytical person. You can apply that trait to gardening, or to understanding your personal finances, or to fixing a car, or to learning a new language. The trait is portable. The title is not. Those traits are so much closer to the real you than any business card ever will be.
And that leads into this final idea from the first section about patterns versus moments. The notes say, single moments lie, patterns don't.
Yes. We are so hard on ourselves about moments. You snap at your kids once after a really long day, and your brain immediately says, I am a bad parent.
Or you skip the gym one time, I'm lazy. You have one awkward conversation where you make a bad joke, I am socially inept.
We catastrophize the moment. But identity isn't a snapshot. It's a long exposure photograph. It's the accumulation of moments over time.
So instead of judging your best day or your worst day, you should look at the themes.
What keeps showing up over the last 5 years? What do you consistently run toward? What do you repeatedly avoid? When do you feel most aligned versus when do you feel most fragmented? The patterns tell the real story. The source has this great line, identity isn't a noun, it's a verb.
It's not a thing you have, it's a thing you do.
It's a thing you are constantly doing. It's a negotiation. You are who you are becoming, who you resist becoming, and who you pretend to be all at once.
That who you resist becoming part is so interesting. We are shaped just as much by what we push away as what we embrace.
Absolutely. The person who fights every single day to not be like their alcoholic father is being shaped by their father just as much as the person who copies him. That resistance creates the contour of their life. It's all part of the negotiation.
Okay, so let's zoom out a bit. We've been looking at the individual, the me in the mirror. But section 2 of our deep dive asks a much broader historical question. Is all this deep thinking a modern luxury? Or have humans always done this?
Right. Is this just a recent invention? And the notes point to something called the preservation bias.
The preservation bias.
Yeah, it's our tendency to think that history began when a writing began. We look back and we see Plato, Aristotle, maybe Confucius, and we think, that is when humans started thinking deeply. Before that, they were just, grunting and hitting rocks together.
Right. We assume that cavemen didn't have existential crises because they didn't have blogs to write about them on.
They didn't have blogs, they didn't have paper, and they definitely didn't have the leisure time to sit around recording their thoughts for posterity. But the expert analysis we reviewed suggests that humans have been deep for as long as we've had complex language. The change isn't in our capacity for depth, it's in our ability to externalize and preserve it.
That makes so much sense. I mean, grief is ancient, awe is ancient, fear of death is ancient.
Exactly. An early human likely stood under the stars and felt the exact same crushing sense of smallness and wonder that we feel. They watched their loved ones die and asked the same question, where did they go? They just processed it differently.
Orally, or through ritual, or through myth.
Yeah, it was embodied, it was performed, it vanished into the air. Right. But just because it wasn't recorded in a book doesn't mean it wasn't felt with the same intensity. The depth was there. The archive was just missing.
But the nature of the question itself has changed, right? The notes mention this fundamental shift from who are we to who am I?
Yes, this is a crucial shift. For most of human history, the context was relational, it was collective. The primary question was, who are we as a tribe? Or what is my role within this group?
Identity was a given, not a project.
It was a given. You were born into a tribe, a caste, a location. You didn't have to go find yourself. You had to fit in to survive. If you were a blacksmith's son, you were probably going to be a blacksmith. If you were born a Spartan, you were a Spartan. The self was tethered to the group. To be exiled from the group was effectively to cease to exist.
Then now.
Now, for many of us, identity has detached from survival. Roles are optional. You can move cities, change careers, change religions, even change your name. We have this unprecedented mobility. So the question naturally shifts from what is my duty to the group to who am I really underneath all this choice?
And that sounds like freedom. It sounds like progress, but the notes call it a paradox.
It is a paradox because that level of freedom is also terrifying. We have more information than any generation in history. We have the powerful illusion of control over our lives, but the research is clear. We don't necessarily have more wisdom.
More knowledge, less wisdom.
Exactly. We have more knowledge, facts, techniques, data, but not necessarily more wisdom, which is about judgment, restraint, and knowing what to do with that knowledge. We've stripped away the containers, the tribe, the ritual, the religion, the rigid social structures that used to hold these big questions for us.
So we are trying to answer the hardest questions in the universe alone in our rooms while scrolling through Instagram.
Precisely. The conclusion the source draws is that the modern search for self isn't necessarily deeper than the ancient one. It is often just lonelier. It's become an individualized burden. We've essentially privatized the existential crisis.
Wow. Lonelier, not deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really lands. It feels so lonely sometimes. It feels like it's all on you to figure it out. And if you get it wrong, it's a personal failure.
And you have to brand your journey while you figure it out. You have to package your authentic self for public consumption. It's absolutely exhausting.
Don't even get me started on the personal brand. Okay, let's get into the mechanics of the you that is actually doing all this figuring out. Section 3, the science of self. This is where the notes get really gritty and fascinating.
This is where we have to confront the meat sack.
The meat sack. I feel like that should be the name of a punk band. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the meat sacks.
It perfectly captures the biological reality, though. At our absolute core, we are organisms. We are biological machines that have been optimized over millions of years for 3 things: survival, reproduction, and energy conservation.
So when I feel fear, it's not some kind of spiritual premonition. It's just my amygdala saying, hey, that shadow looks a bit like a snake.
That's it. Emotions, from this purely biological perspective, are just regulatory signals. Fear equals avoid threat. Shame equals don't get kicked out of the tribe, you'll die. pleasure equals do that again, it's good for survival. It's all very practical. It's not magic, it's mechanics.
But we aren't just meat sacks. Please tell me we're not just meat sacks. That feels a little reductive.
No, we're not. We are also meaning seekers. And this is the cool part. The notes reference Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We usually think of self-actualization as this luxury item at the very top of the pyramid, something you get to do after you've bought the house and the car.
Right. It's the dessert of life.
We think of it that way. But the source material argues it's actually a second-order adaptation.
What does that mean, second-order adaptation?
It means that once your belly is full and you are reasonably safe from tigers, your nervous system doesn't just shut down and go idle. It starts looking for patterns. It starts looking for purpose. It seeks coherence, meaning it isn't a lie we tell ourselves. It's what a high-functioning brain does when it isn't preoccupied with immediate survival. It's an instinct, just like hunger.
So the brain hates a vacuum. If it can't find a pattern, it creates one.
It creates one. That's what stories are. That's what religion is. That's what a coherent identity is. It's the brain organizing chaos into a manageable narrative, which leads directly to the dashboard analogy, which I think is one of the most useful tools in this entire deep dive to understand how the brain actually constructs the feeling of you.
Okay, walk us through this. The I is an interface.
So neuroscience is pretty clear that there is no single commander in the brain. There is no little person, no homunculus, sitting in a control room behind your eyes pulling levers.
A little pilot driving the mech suit.
Right, that little guy doesn't exist. The self is an emergent experience, a feeling that arises from multiple, often competing systems. So think of it like the dashboard of a car.
Okay, I'm in the driver's seat.
You see the speedometer. You see the fuel gauge. You see the navigation map on the screen. You feel like you are in control, like you are driving. But do you control the fuel injection? Do you control the firing of the spark plugs? Do you have any idea what the transmission fluid pressure is?
Absolutely not. I don't even know how those things work. I just press the pedal and trust that the car will go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The vast majority of your brain's operations are completely automatic and unconscious. You don't decide which thought pops into your head next. Try it right now.
Yeah.
Try to predict your very next thought before you have it. You can't. It just appears.
It just shows up.
It just shows up. You don't decide to feel angry. Anger just appears on your internal dashboard like a check engine light.
So what do I do? If I'm not the engine, if I'm not the mechanics, what am I in this analogy?
You are the interface. You're the pilot, not the engineer. You get to decide, sometimes, which your thoughts to engage with. You get to decide whether to slam on the brakes when that anger light flashes or to keep accelerating. But you are not the owner of the machine in the way you think you are. You are the user navigating its signals.
And that connects to the idea of the press secretary that's mentioned in the notes.
The narrative self.
Yes.
Yes. The brain, like a network of regions called the default mode network, is constantly spinning a story to explain what the machine is doing, usually after the fact.
After the fact?
Yes. So if you act impulsively, say you yell at a colleague in a meeting, your internal press secretary immediately gets to work writing a press release. I did that because I was under a lot of stress and they were being deliberately annoying, and I'm actually a very patient person usually, so this is really their fault.
It creates a coherent story, even if the underlying facts are messy and contradictory. It just spins the news.
It creates coherence, not necessarily truth. Its job is to keep you sane, not to be a perfect historian. If we had to face the raw randomness and contradictions of our own brains constantly, we'd go crazy. The press secretary smooths it all out into a nice, tidy, linear biography.
This sounds a little bit like Freud, but the notes were quick to point out that Freud's model is pretty outdated.
Literal Freud is outdated, for sure. The id, ego, and superego are not literal parts of the brain.
Yeah.
You can't cut open a skull and find the ego sitting there next to the hippocampus. But as a metaphor for internal conflict, it's still incredibly useful.
So what's the modern update?
The key correction modern psychology makes is that the ego is not you. The ego is a manager.
A manager trying to prevent a strike between the workers and the board.
That's a perfect way to put it. It's middle management. It's constantly trying to balance the demands of the primal instincts, the meat sack, and the social rules imposed by culture. And this leads to Jung and the more modern idea of multiplicity. The therapy model internal family systems, or IFS, is all about this. We aren't one solid block. We are a collection of parts.
Like a parliament in your head.
Exactly like a parliament.
Yeah.
You have a part that is ambitious and wants to conquer the world. You have another part that is lazy, just wants to eat pizza in bed. You have a part that is a scared inner child. You have a part that is a harsh inner critic
And they are all arguing in the conference room of your mind.
all the time. And conflict between them isn't a sign that you are broken or pathological. It's just a sign that the parts are misaligned. The ambitious part hates the lazy part. The inner critic hates the scared child. The whole goal of self-work, from this perspective, isn't to kill off the parts you don't like. It's to get them all to sit down and talk, to get the chairman of the board, the core self, to actually listen to all of them and facilitate the meeting.
I find that so incredibly relieving. It explains why I can want two completely contradictory things at the exact same time. Like, I want to be fit and healthy, and I want to eat this entire pizza right now. Both feel completely true.
It's not hypocrisy, it's multiplicity. It just means two different parts are holding the microphone at the same time.
Okay, so we are a multiplicity of parts running on a biological machine with a press secretary spinning the story. If all of that is true, are we even the same person from one day to the next? This brings us to section 4, the paradox of continuity.
The ship of Theseus.
I love this thought experiment. It's one of those things that, like you said, just keeps you up at night if you let it.
It's the classic identity puzzle. Why don't you lay it out for anyone who might not have heard it?
Okay, so imagine there's a famous wooden ship, the ship of Theseus. It's docked in the harbor as a museum piece. Over time, the wood starts to rot. So you replace one rotting plank with a new one. Is it still a ship of Theseus?
Yes, obviously.
Of course. Then you replace another plank. Then the mast. Then the rudder. Over 50 years, you methodically replace every single piece of the ship. Not one splinter of the original wood remains. So the question is it still the ship of Theseus?
And then the follow-up question that really breaks your brain. If you took all the old rotten planks that you threw away and you painstakingly reassembled them into a second ship in the dock next door, which one is the real ship of Theseus?
And now apply that to a human being.
Right. Your cells die and are replaced constantly. The atoms that make you up are cycling in and out. Your memories fade and distort. And the science on this is wild. Every time you remember something, you actually rewrite the memory slightly. So you aren't even remembering the original event. You're remembering the last time you remembered it.
So your personality shifts, your body changes, your memories are unreliable. Are you the same person you were at age 5?
Biologically, absolutely not. You're a completely different pile of atoms. You are new stuff.
So the material resolution to the paradox, the idea that we're the same because we're made of the same stuff, that just fails completely.
It fails. So what's the answer? How am I still me?
The notes offer a few possible solutions.
The notes offer 3 main ones. The material one, which we've just seen, fails. The psychological one is the modern favorite. It says we have continuity of memory and patterns. But even that is shaky. What if you get amnesia? Are you a new person? It gets complicated.
So that leaves the third one, narrative. And the notes say this is the winner.
It's the strongest and most practical one. We are the same person because we are the story that links all the different versions of the ship together. You are not numerically identical to your past self, but you are existentially continuous.
Like a river.
Exactly like a river. The water molecules are always changing, the banks are eroding, the shape is shifting from moment to moment, but we still call it the Mississippi River. The river persists as a continuous pattern. Or think of a melody. You can play Happy Birthday on a grand piano, then on a cheap guitar, then just whistle it. The material is completely different. Hammers on strings versus vibrating strings versus just wind. But the pattern, the melody, is the same. You are the melody, not the instrument you happen to be played on today.
But this gets really tricky when we talk about responsibility and forgiveness. If I'm a new person, if I'm a new instrument, why am I responsible for the debts or the mistakes of what the old me did?
Or the flip side, why should I forgive someone who hurt me 10 years ago?
Hmm?
They've truly changed. Aren't I just being angry at a ghost?
Exactly. It's the ethics of continuity. This is a huge question in law and morality. The source suggests a concept to navigate this called forgiving forward.
Forgiving forward, what is that?
Forgiveness isn't pretending the harm didn't happen. It isn't saying, oh, that person who hurt you doesn't exist anymore. It's recognizing that the person has changed. They are a new version of the ship, while also acknowledging that the relationship between you has a continuous history. It breaks the link between you did this harmful thing and you are therefore an evil person forever. It allows for the possibility that the person standing in front of you today is not the exact same person who hurt you, even if they still bear the responsibility for it.
And for yourself. How do you relate to your own past mistakes through that lens?
The takeaway here is really powerful. You aren't obligated to be who you were. You don't have to keep the same opinions or habits or relationships just because you had them yesterday. But you are responsible for how you carry who you were forward.
Responsible for how you carry it. I like that phrasing. It's like carrying a backpack. You can't just put it down. You can't erase the past, but you can decide to repack it. You inherit and have to pay the debts of the previous version of yourself.
Exactly. And this leads directly to the ethics of reinvention. We live in a time where people change everything about themselves. Names, genders, religions, political parties, entire careers. And the notes ask, is this reckless? Is it a sign of instability?
And the answer is, it depends.
It always depends.
It depends on the why. Reinvention is healthy when it is integrative.
Integrative meaning?
Meaning you are bringing more of yourself online. You're making a change because it aligns with a deeper truth you have discovered about yourself. It becomes unhealthy when the motivation is avoidant. I am changing because I hate myself, I'm bored, and I just want to run away from my problems.
So the diagnostic question you should ask yourself is, am I moving towards something that feels more coherent and whole, or am I just running away from something painful?
That's it. That's the core question. And regarding the impact on other people, because this is always the big social friction point, the notes are very clear. Minor inconvenience to others is not a veto on your identity.
People hate having to update their mental models of you. But you've always been the funny one. You've always been the quiet one. But we've always called you Dave.
Right. It takes cognitive energy for them to change their view of you. But you are not obligated to stay small or static, just so that other people don't have to do the work of updating their internal database. However, if your reinvention causes serious harm, if it destroys your family or breaks a massive promise, you need to navigate that with extreme care and responsibility.
So the goal is reversible experimentation rather than just grand, reckless declarations.
Reversible experimentation. I love that term. Try it on, see if it fits. You don't have to burn all the boats immediately. Identity is a practice, not just a declaration. Wear the new name for a while. Try the new hobby. See if the river accepts the new path before you dynamite the old dam.
Now, speaking of practices and tools, Section 5 covers a topic that is just exploding right now. It connects this deep philosophy with the most cutting-edge tech. Authorship, creativity, and the filter.
The AI question. This is the new frontier of the self.
This is huge for anyone doing any kind of creative work or even just writing emails at their job. If I use AI to help me think or write or draw, is it mine? Am I the author? Or am I just a prompter? Am I just placing an order at a creative drive-thru?
The source material approaches this with a really elegant idea called the filter theory. It argues that humans are not the source of ideas in the way we traditionally think. We don't just conjure them from the void like wizards.
We aren't gods creating from nothingness.
No, we are filters. We are constantly taking in the world books we've read, conversations we've had, pain we've felt, the specific color of the sunset we saw yesterday, and we process all of it. Your unique lived experience, your trauma, your culture, your body, your specific history creates a unique distortion pattern.
Like a prism with a specific crack in it.
Exactly, a prism with a unique crack in it. When a generic idea passes through you, it comes out bent in a way that is unique to you. That distortion is the art. That distortion is the authorship.
That's fascinating. So the authorship isn't in generating the raw data, it's in the specific personal distortion.
Yes. That's why two people can stand and look at the exact same landscape and paint two completely different pictures. Or why two people can use the exact same AI prompt and, through iteration and selection, end up with wildly different results. The curation is the creation.
So how does AI fit into that? Is it just another filter?
The notes use a camera analogy, which I think is brilliant. When photography was first invented, painters famously argued that it wasn't a real art form. They said, the machine did all the work. You just pushed a button. It's mechanical.
But no one thinks that now.
Of course not. Today, we don't say a great photograph belongs to the Nikon camera it was shot on. We ask, why did the photographer point the camera there? Why did they choose that framing, that lighting? Why capture that specific fleeting moment?
It's all about the direction, the intent, the choice.
Authorship lives in direction, selection, and intent. AI cannot decide what matters to you. It cannot decide what is honest. It cannot decide what tone perfectly reflects your internal world. It can generate infinite options, but it cannot choose the right one for you.
Only I can do that.
Only you. Because only you have the internal reference point of what it feels like to be me. So if you use AI to translate a rich internal world that you couldn't otherwise express, maybe you don't have the technical drawing skills or the musical training or the right words, that is an act of accessibility, not an act of theft. You own the synthesis.
The distinction between legal and moral authorship in the notes was really interesting on this point, too.
It's a key difference. Legal authorship is about money. It's about copyright law. It's about who gets sued. And historically, it's a very biased system. It has erased women, minorities, and collaborative efforts for centuries. But moral authorship is about genuine engagement and transformation.
The notes use the example of fan-fiction.
Right. Legally, you do not own the character of Harry Potter. J.K. Rowling does. But if you write a story about Harry Potter that is secretly a way for you to explore your own specific grief over losing a parent, you are the moral author of that emotional work. It is your truth, just wrapped in someone else's symbol.
So you own the meaning, even if you used a tool or someone else's characters to build the container for that meaning.
If you stand behind it, if you take responsibility for the meaning it puts into the world, you are the author. It shifts the entire question from who made this to who is responsible for this.
I think that's going to be a very comforting and empowering thought for a lot of people who are struggling with imposter syndrome in the age of AI. It shifts the focus from production, which AI is getting great at, to responsibility, which AI is and always will be incapable of.
Exactly.
Okay, section 6. The deep end of the pool. We are going to the bottom of the ocean here. The shadow, the mask, and the improbability.
This is where we zoom all the way out and look at the cosmic scale.
Starting with the improbability stack.
Yes, the science of existential contingency. This is where we step back from our own internal drama and look at the sheer, cold, hard math of you being here at all.
Okay, lay it on us. Break it down.
Okay, so when you stack up the odds, first you have planetary physics. The galaxy had to form in a way that could support life. The Earth had to form in the very narrow habitable zone around the sun. It had to have water. It had to have a magnetic field. That alone is ridiculously improbable.
And that's just setting the stage.
That's just the empty stage. Then, life had to spontaneously start from non-living matter, a mystery we still haven't solved.
Yeah.
Then, that fragile life had to survive 5 known mass extinction events. Then you get to your own personal line.
Right. Every single one of your ancestors had to survive wars, plagues, famines, predators.
They all had to survive long enough to meet the right person at the right time and reproduce. And then, the final biological lottery. That specific sperm, out of millions, had to meet that specific egg to create the genetic combination that is you.
When you lay it all out like that, it's just absurd.
It is statistically indistinguishable from zero. The odds of you being you, sitting here right now, are so vanishingly small that they are effectively non-existent. The universe is almost entirely empty space and dead rocks, and yet here you are, listening to a deep dive, worrying about your emails.
And the notes say that facing this fact destabilizes 2 core illusions we live with.
It does. First, it shatters the illusion that I am insignificant. You cannot be insignificant if you're the result of a 13 billion year winning streak against impossible odds. You are cosmically rare. You are a walking statistical miracle. But second, it shatters the illusion that I am in control.
I'm not.
You are clearly not. You are a product of radical chance. You didn't earn your existence. You inherited it through a series of cosmic accidents.
So how do we even handle that? It feels completely overwhelming.
We reframe the question. Instead of asking the old question, why do I exist, which implies there is some hidden plan or a boss level we're supposed to beat, we ask a new one. Given that I exist against all odds, what do I want this improbable moment to express?
Given that I exist, that's a powerful starting point. It accepts the miracle without getting bogged down in the theology or the why of it. It's practical awe.
It invites participation. It turns life from a burden to be figured out into an opportunity to be expressed. And that leads directly into the inner depth work. Because if you are this complex, improbable creature, you have layers. And some of those layers are going to be dark.
The shadow.
The shadow. The intrusive thoughts, the taboo desires, the parts of yourself that you would never, ever put on your resume. The envy, the rage, the pettiness, the weirdness.
Everyone has them.
Everyone has them. If someone tells you they don't, they're either lying or they are very, very dangerous. The source is clear. Depth equals complexity plus privacy. Having a thought doesn't make it true. Having a desire is not a mandate to act.
This is the trap of shame.
Yes. Shame says, I had a bad thought, therefore I am a bad person.
Yeah.
But remember the dashboard analogy. Your mind generates thoughts automatically. You don't control the engine? The engine throws up sparks and smoke. That's all they are.
So what's the wrong way to deal with them? Suppression.
Suppression is the most common and most destructive way. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. You can do it, but it takes all your energy. And you spend your life terrified of letting go. And eventually, you get tired and it explodes out of the water and hits you in the face.
And that's when it comes out sideways.
That's when it comes out as sarcasm or addiction or passive-aggressive rage. Jung called this the shadow. If you don't acknowledge it and have a relationship with it, it controls you from behind the scenes.
Okay, so suppression is bad. What about just indulging them?
No, indulgence is the other trap. That's just handing the steering wheel over to the most chaotic part of yourself.
Mm.
If you act on every dark impulse just because it's my truth or I'm just being authentic, you erode your self-respect.
Yeah.
You lose your boundaries. You become a slave to impulse, and you end up hurting people and yourself.
So if suppression and inventions are the two wrong paths, what is the third way?
Integration.
And what does that look like, practically speaking?
It means you acknowledge the part. You turn toward it. You say, hello, anger, I see you're here. You get curious. You ask, what is this part trying to do for me? Maybe that dark fantasy is just a way of venting stress. Maybe that rage is trying to protect a boundary that got crossed. You listen to the part. You validate its concern, but you don't hand it the steering wheel. You treat it like a concerned passenger who has a valid point but is a really bad driver.
So use the ethical filter.
Right. You run the impulse through a filter. Does this violate someone's autonomy? Does it undermine my core values? Does it reduce my capacity for honest relationships? If the answer is no, it's just a fantasy or a feeling, you can explore it safely. In art, in journaling, in therapy, depth isn't about shouting your secrets to the world. It's about having an honest, private relationship with them yourself.
Which brings us to the final metaphor of the entire deep dive, the mask and the matrix.
We love the idea of taking off the mask, don't we? We love the movie The Matrix, where Neo unplugs and finally sees the real world. We all want that one final moment of total authenticity.
But the expert analysis says
there is no final unplugging. Masks, or what psychologists call personas, are just social interfaces. They aren't prisons. You need a mask to be a polite neighbor. You need a mask to be a professional at work. You cannot and should not be your raw, unedited biological self at the grocery store.
that would be absolute chaos.
It would be chaos. And frankly, it would be selfish. So being authentic isn't about having no filter. It's not about radical honesty where you just tell everyone exactly what you think of them all the time. That's not wisdom, that's just being a jerk.
So what is real depth then, if it's not some final unmasking?
Real depth is earned humility. It isn't shouting from the rooftops, this is the real me. It sounds a lot more like, I'm still figuring it out, or this feels true for me right now. It's an admission of complexity and impermanence.
It's softer, it's less certain.
It's much softer. It's not a performance of depth. It's a posture of curiosity. It's admitting that you are a mystery, even and especially to yourself.
So we've covered a massive amount of ground today. From the meat sack to the improbable miracle of our own existence. From the ship of Theseus to the AI camera. If we had to synthesize all of this for the person listening right now, maybe walking their dog, looking up at the trees, and wondering what the one big takeaway is, what would you say?
I'd summarize it like this. Identity is a practice, not a verdict. You are a biological organism running a meaning-making process on top of it. You are evolved to be deep, but the modern world makes that a lonely endeavor. So you have to be intentional about finding and cultivating that depth. And tools, whether it's a journal or AI or the act of reinvention, they don't steal your meaning. They just reveal your responsibility. At the end of the day, you are the author because you are the one who has to live with the consequences of your story.
And I want to leave everyone with that final provocation from the notes because I think it's just beautiful and it takes so much of the pressure off. You don't need to justify your inner life by making it impressive, monetizable, or provably original.
Just having the inner life is enough. The exploration itself is the point.
The fact that you are even asking these questions places you on the side of integrity over performance. That isn't a mask you're wearing, that's a posture. And it's enough to keep going.
It's more than enough.
It is enough. Thank you for diving deep with us today. Go easy on your improbable selves out there.
See you next time.